Jim Neighbors, Gino Vanelli, Bumper Music Wednesday. This, The Money Shot.
Back home again in Indiana.
And that ain't Vanelli.
And it seems
Still with us, Michelle Malkin of MichelleMalkin.com and the author of Culture of Corruption, Obama and His Team of Tax Cheats, Crooks, and Cronies. Michelle, what am I to make of Tammy Faye Boehner last night? Is he up to this, or what was that about?
You know, isn't the point for us to send fighters to Washington to make the other side cry? You know, I'm not a fan of the leakiness from men in Washington. And although some of my favorite ladies of the right didn't quite make it, past the finish line, I would have hoped that the message of manning up would have reached some of these men.
Well, I'll tell you what, Palin's a tough dame, man.
She is.
You think about what she's under, and I saw her sitting there with Geraldine Ferrara last night. She was polite, but she's not going to be sucky about it. She knows what she stands for, and I know they're going to beat her over the head with the Oriana Fallaci, Katie Couric moment, but I'm telling you, that dame's still in the game because she's tough.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And there are a lot of great steel-spined ladies who will be sent to Washington now and who are taking command at the state level as well. I think that this is the untold story of the Tea Party revolution, that in so many ways the benefits were not obvious and explicit to most people who were paying attention at the federal level. And so many of the people who went in at the entry level are going to be the next stars, the next generation. We had huge wins, obviously, with Pat Toomey, Marco Rubio, but I think one of the things that the last 2 years have proved is none of these pundits inside the Beltway could have predicted what had happened. We didn't know these names that are now at the forefront of everyone's mind in the conservative movement, the Chris Christies of the world, and this is what makes my job grand.
Yeah, when you watch, it is almost a messiah to pariah-like plummet over the last 22 years to think that we went from them talking about possibly the end of the Republican Party as we know it, if I remember a Time magazine cover correctly, to a 60 at least seat loss, more Senate seats than usual, governorships, state legislatures. This guy's really squandered about as much goodwill as you can over a 22-month period.
Yeah, and no one has done a better job of decimating the Democrat base than the Democrat sitting in the White House himself. I'm just looking over the wires now, and one of his aides is telegraphing what he'll say this afternoon. And guess what? They haven't learned a darn thing, though, yet.
Good.
This is the quote. "This was a vote for cooperation and pragmatism."
Good. Hey, Mitch, that's manna from heaven for me. I'm glad he misses it.
Yes. True enough.
Because he's not going anywhere for 2 years anyway. The only thing we can garner off him now is him continuing to miss the point over the next 22 months.
Yeah.
And
of course, a lot of the battles that we'll be fighting will have to be extra legislative. In other words, the radical czars that he has in place, all of these cabinet secretaries that come from the progressive left will be foisting their agenda not through the lame duck session and through the ordinary means and channels, but by executive order and behind the scenes and through directives and memos. And this is one of the reasons I'm very thankful that we do have good Republicans from California like Darrell Issa, who are going to be watchdogging and issuing subpoenas and doing the investigative work that much of the mainstream media hasn't done.
If he comes out and takes a somewhat strident tenor this afternoon, folks, get ye to the Chicago Mercantile and buy Marco Rubio and Tim Pawlenty futures, because I'm telling you, this guy begins the race for the presidency at 1 o'clock. If he takes that stand, that now everybody just has to jump into the back seat, as he says, and get on board, and that's what the people have told us. Yeah, you think so? Can you misread tea leaves anymore? We've got Margaret in North Carolina. Margaret, you're on with Michelle Malkin. What's up?
Oh, well, I just wanted to comment about the crying from our probable Speaker of the House, Boehner, that too I was very disconcerted by it as a baby boomer. I had deja vu about Edwin Muskie crying in the snow.
Yes.
I think there should be no crying in politics, but then I decided I think he was trying to show us that as a Speaker of the House, it is physically possible to cry.
Margaret, you're a tough dame and you're a funny dame down there in North Carolina. Thanks for hitting that ball out of the park. All right, so the overall results, let's shoot them through while we have a few moments left with her. Michelle Malkin, I know that you and I have to get through the fugue state of being in buzzkill states, but overall, a historic night, I think, right?
Yeah, no question about it. We've got a Republican take-back of the Rust Belt, which is extraordinary, which I think most pundits would not have predicted. 10 governor pickups, state legislatures, Secretary of State positions, which are crucial. I mean, these are positions that the George Soros left has been targeting, pouring millions in trying to get their left-wing watchdogs to take over the electoral integrity process. And then, of course, now a House that has been invigorated with grassroots conservatives, constitutional activists, and people whose feet will be held to the fire. Overall, I think, Dennis, and I understand it's your birthday, a fairly good birthday present for you.
Yes, and I'm not lighting any candles. I don't want to worry about CO2 discharge out here in the land of the lost. But let me ask you this in closing. If you're Boehner, do you force through a repeal of Obamacare thing? And obviously it's not going to get repealed now, but do you make somebody put their fingerprints on it and veto it? Or do you make... Yeah.
It's got to be agenda item number one, and apparently Eric Cantor's already promised it. And if they're going to have any credibility at all with the people that put them back in office yesterday, they got to put it at the top of the list.
Yeah, they might want to call Donald Segretti's phone number and find out how they can rodent procreate over the next couple of years, because that's what I would do. I would put that bill on his desk or on the Senate, and I would make him veto it. All right, Mitch, good to talk to you, doll.
You too. Take care, Dennis.
Have a good one. Michelle Malkin. She's out there in the lovely foothills of Colorado. In her column today, like I said, she's one of those mama grizzlies. Take your olive branch and shove at Democrats. Oh, really? Can you turn that quickly this afternoon in a speech? Can the President of the United States turn that quickly and ask to be conciliatory with it? When I'm telling you, I'm not a move-up country militia guy. I'm not. I want to like the presidency, but I have never heard... And maybe I could go back and find some Nixonian quotes, but even then, I think he thought he was off the grid and Rosemary Woods had leaned on the wrong button or something. Yeah, there was that thuggish talk, but you're on a public radio outlet and you say punish your enemies? I don't know what to make of that. Anybody can say now after that, if I bring that up, that I'm paranoid or I'm fractious or I don't want to be bipartisan. Folks, that got my attention. I'm one of those quote-unquote enemies that needs to be quote-unquote punished. I mean, come on. And what is my sin that I need to be punished for? I'd like to get a turnstile at the border? Jeez, really? That's what gets you thrown into the enemy pile in this culture now? Come on now. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me... Well, you know that saying. That's the saying nobody can ever get right. That's what I call that saying. Have I ever gotten it right? What is it? Fool me once, shame on me. Listen to Sabes. All of a sudden, he's Pliny the Elder.
Trying to help you out,
boss. Big guy. What was this, some ABC a science project you did in the 7th grade? You're so sure of that. I put a potato.
Shame on you.
You? See,
he's tried to get it tattooed 5 times, and each time they have to start over. So
my whole back is covered.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that the reason that people get tattoos so often that say mom on them is because they're afraid they'll catch a dyslexic tattoo artist, and they know they'll get it the same way both ways. You can't misspell mom. That's what I think's behind that. Back after this on the Dennis Miller Show.
The Dennis Miller Show.